not that serious.
Good show, guys. Stand by.
You know what time it is. It's 9 o'clock, so it's time for SoCal Prep Report. My name is Randy Rosenbloom. Alongside is Tarek Fatal from the Daily News. We're going to meet him momentarily. We have a really busy show. We're going to talk Marshall baseball. Bryan Akasaka, in his fourth year, head coach there, doing a great job with the Barristers. He's got a star pitcher as well with us, Daniel Vergara. He's 8-0. And then a little later in the program, we're going to meet a lady. She's 28 years of age, taking over at El Camino Real. Shawn Kolani, former basketball player at Taft. She's going to be the head boys basketball coach at ECR in Woodland Hills. It'll be a treat to talk to Shawn. But we're going to start with baseball. We're going to meet Tarek. I know, Tarek, you're going to a huge game in the CIF baseball quarterfinals tomorrow.
That's right. Harvard Westlake is playing J. Sarah. It's going to be a rematch of the Division I final last year. It's a game Harvard Westlake won. We're going to see what happens tomorrow in the quarterfinal. I expect Tommy Bridges to pitch for Harvard Westlake. He's one of the Mission League's best pitchers.
Yeah, and the second game I know that's going head-to-head with it, another great quarterfinal with another Trinity Mission League matchup, is Orange Lutheran at Notre Dame in Sherman Oaks. That's an interesting game because they played at the Boris Classic in the losers division, although they're both not losers, obviously they're great teams. And Notre Dame fell to Olu, the top-seeded team, 21-2, and gave up 16 runs in one inning. But this is the playoffs, and anything can happen.
Yeah, I doubt the score is going to be anything resembling that. We kind of debated about that on the show, but it's going to be a great. I think Cole Clark's going to pitch for Notre Dame, and I always say it. That stadium is maybe one of the best in San Fernando Valley down in Notre Dame. It's the stadium that Giancarlo Stanton built. You know, he gave a lot of money and built it up, and it's a really nice field. So I expect it to be a really good game. Low scoring, I'm expecting.
They could use Stanton because he hit 2 homers tonight. So they could use him tomorrow
That's
in that
right,
game.
That's right.
Let's talk about the playoffs in the city section. Number 1 seed is Granada Hills. Birmingham, number 2. El Camino Real is 3. 4 is Palisades. The top 3 teams, all from the West Valley.
It's kind of the tale as old as time, at least recently, last half dozen years or so for sure. It's always the West Valley League representing a majority of the top of the open division in the city section. Birmingham has won the last 3. The last time it was at Dodger Stadium. Last year it was San Pedro. We haven't had a West Valley League, a non-West Valley League winner win the city title in the open division for a long time. So I expect it to be the usual suspects. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it's a 12-team tournament. The 4 top teams have byes. One of the key games we're going to hone in a little while is Marshall hosting Poly. Again, we're going to talk to our Marshall friends momentarily. Let's talk a little city softball. I know, Tarek, you were there. Phenomenal softball game. Kennedy upsetting, I know you don't like that term, against Granada Hills 7-6. They win it on a controversial play at home plate. After losing a 6-0 lead,
That's
Kennedy
right.
prevailed 7-6.
Kennedy took a quick 3-0 lead, then was up 6-0. Granada came back, storming back, made it 6-6, but this was the play to win the game in the top of the 7th, a slide at home.
Or safe? What do you think?
Well, she was called safe, and boy, our photographer, Andy Holtzman, was all over it. And if you look at the bottom of that screen, there's the tag, and she hasn't touched the plate. It was bedlam in Granada Hills.
Yeah, great matchup. Those are 2 traditional powers in city softball. Granada Hills, number 2 seed, out of the tournament. Of course, it's going to be a great game Tuesday. San Pedro and El Camino, they both advanced. They both have 17 city titles. Something's got to give. ECR is the favorite there. Division I baseball, I want to remind people that we do have a D1 there with Taft as the number 1 seed. And Larry Zaval, our producer, we had to bring this up because Bell, his school, is the number 2 seed. All right, let's talk a little bit about boys volleyball. Let's start in the southern section. Loyola, the Cubs, play Newport Harbor. Loyola's ranked number 1 in the country. Newport Harbor is in the top 10 in America. The Cubs have been the best team all year long.
I just don't see Loyola losing that match, but hey, they say that's why you play the match. That's why you play the game. We'll see how it goes. Championship, anything can go.
It really something could give there. You really don't know. And they did play earlier in the year, and Loyola beat them 3 straight sets. All right, let's talk a little bit about swimming, and then we'll get to our guests. San Pedro won its first ever boys title in the LA City section. Quite a breakthrough for San Pedro. They had never won it before.
Hey, anytime you're doing something that's the first in program history, it's something that'll never be forgotten. So kudos to San Pedro and kudos to those swimmers.
You know what's repetitive? Palisades winning the girls' city championship in swimming. They now have won 30, and more impressively, 13 in a row.
Oh, man. That's dominance, and I think that's the best way to put it. That's about it.
That's very dominant. Did you say dominance? That reminds me of Marshall, their baseball team in the Northern League. So let's go out to our 2 friends that are joining us now. Bryan Akasaka, the head coach, done a terrific job there. They've won 20 straight games. That's a school record. And his fine right-hander, Daniel Vergara. They're going to join us momentarily. That's quite a streak, isn't it, Tara?
Oh, well, listen, anytime you're winning that many games in a row, you're clearly doing something right. Curious to know what the recipe is as they head into the postseason.
Okay, and there they are. Let's start with the coach. It's hard to tell which one. They look about the same age. They're both really young. Bryan, first and foremost, congratulations on a great year. You got the play-in game against Poly of Sun Valley on Tuesday. Why so much success there this season, winning 20 in a row? What's been the formula that's provided so many wins for the Barristers?
I think when it comes down to it, it's just consistency. You know, they show up every day ready to play, and they just go out and do their jobs. You know, I don't think there's much to it. It's just taking it one game at a time.
And Daniel, you've had a great year, 8-0. I know you've been on the varsity for 4 years. Where have you improved the most in your senior year?
Definitely pitching. You know, freshman year I came in and I wasn't much of a pitcher. I got put in right field and played most of my games there. Few starts, maybe one, and throughout the years, developed myself as a pitcher and, you know, developed myself as a dominant pitcher in the Northern League. And, yeah, definitely pitching.
Bryan, back to you. I want to ask, what has been the key to the streak? What is it that, you know, you're on win 15, 16, you know, as you're rolling through those high numbers, what has been the key to keeping it up?
It's going to sound cliche, but pitching and defense. You know, a lot of the games weren't really high scoring, so we had to rely on our pitchers to throw strikes and our defense to play catch. And that's kind of what it came down to, and we hit just enough to squeak by in some of those games.
What's with all the no-hitters? The Barristers have 4 no-hitters this year. 2 of them are perfect games. Daniel, you've been involved in one of them because I guess it was a combined perfect game. That's incredible. 4 no-hitters in a short season like this?
Yeah. It's our pitchers can get things done on the mound. You know, they throw a lot of strikes, walk a few guys, you know, really consistent strike throwers. Yeah, we don't pride ourselves on the strikeout. We're always trying to get ground balls, stuff like that. Just letting them put the ball in play, and, you know, being good strike throwers in general just helps that out.
Daniel, what's it like being on campus? So again, you're on this win streak. You're in the Open Division for the first time in program history. What's it been like on campus, going through the hallways? What's been the camaraderie like from your fellow students?
Nobody at Marshall cares. I'll tell you that.
Oh,
really,
no.
Yeah, nobody, you get no recognition.
I like him. He tells the truth. He's telling the truth.
Nobody cares. Unless you're talking to one of your guys, like teammates or the softball girls who actually understand what baseball is and how to play. Nobody cares.
So not even the fellow athletes on campus, like the football guy. I mean, no way, nothing, huh?
Nothing. You get nothing. It's a thankless job.
Hey, Coach, you're in the Open Division. Last year you went to the semifinals and you lost in Division One. Now you make that step up. You're playing the best of the best. How proud are you to make that jump, and how successful can you be in the playoffs?
Oh, I'm extremely proud of these guys. You know, that's always the goal every year is to earn our way into the open division. And, you know, thankfully this year we're able to do that and we get to kind of put ourselves to the test against against the best.
Well, you start with Poly High School. Do you scout them? Do you know anything about the Parrots? Do you know what you're up against in that playing game Tuesday?
I've spoken to a few coaches, but I think when it comes down to it, it's just, what our guys will be able to do against them, and scouting reports can only really go so far. So I'm just looking to throw our best at them, and hopefully, that's good enough.
Daniel, I see your gaming headset. I got to ask you, what kind of games are you playing? And is it something that you do with your teammates? Is it a way you guys get away from the diamond, away from baseball at all?
Games that I really play, I don't play too much anymore. Through my first 3 years of high school, I played a lot of NBA 2K, MLB. I played with my teammates at that time, but a lot of the guys are so focused on baseball and like building their resume every single day, getting stronger, getting better, that nobody really has time for video games. If anything, they have any time off, they're sleeping. I'll tell you that. Our guys are big nappers.
That's good.
Sleeping is good. I highly recommend sleeping. It's a very positive act. Coach, the gauntlet of trying to win the LA City Section Baseball Championship normally goes through the San Fernando Valley, normally goes through the West Valley, the El Camino Reals of the world, Birmingham, and certainly this year Granada Hills. Do you feel like you can navigate through that kind of schedule, and this Barrister team maybe could steal the show and end up at Dodger Stadium at the end of the month?
I'm confident that anything can happen, and if we play our brand of baseball and focus on the task at hand, anything can happen. I'm not going to guarantee anything, but I think we'll be able to compete in regardless of how far we get.
And Daniel, how excited are you to get that start against the Parrots in the playoffs on Tuesday? And is it different to pitch in the playoffs? You've done it before.
I'm always ready to pitch any sort of game. I've like you said, I've been in those high leverage games. I've pitched against good teams. I've pitched against good teams in the playoffs. I'm fairly excited. I know what I can do as a pitcher, and I'm just ready to go out there and compete. Really, I really am.
And you like being in front of the camera too. You want to be an announcer? I mean, you want to work alongside Tom Brady, do something like that?
God willing, something like that'd be pretty awesome. After my baseball career is over, it'd be awesome to be in front of the camera and be able to talk about sports or something.
Well, Coach, best of luck on Tuesday and throughout the tournament, and congratulations on a great year. And same for you, Daniel. Terrific final year. You're unbeaten. You can't do much better than that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Guys. Thank you, guys. Interesting team, Tark. When you think of Marshall Barrister baseball, I don't think they've ever won the championship. So for them to reach this level and win the 20 games in a row, go undefeated in the Northern League, is a tremendous accomplishment.
You can't say, oh well, you are so accomplished in this season. You just want it to keep getting better. So you could mail it in and go, wow, gosh, we've accomplished so much. We've gotten a berth that we've never achieved before, but they want more. And I think sometimes teams that do that for the first time, it's more than just happy to be there. Now you got to try and win games. You see what I'm saying? So hopefully that's the case for Marshall.
And they have a deep pitching staff, which will help them. By the way, did you see that wide shot? You see that young lady there?
Oh, yeah.
You know who that is?
I do.
Okay, don't say I do. You'll get married again. Shawn Kolani. There she is. Shawn, welcome to the show.
Thank you guys for having me.
Great to have you. I'm confused when you're here because I know you played basketball at Taft, and now you're coaching the boys team at El Camino Real, which is a tremendous competitor there in the league. How strange is it for you to be at El Camino as a coach after having a career as a player at Taft?
I wouldn't say strange. I mean, as an athlete, we compete, but once you're done with your competitive career, it's you just kind of want to be around basketball. So for me, it wasn't Taft, Elko. It was just I could help contribute to a school that's, around the area that I grew up in.
Talk about your first, I don't know, maybe you've been there a month now. Just kind of talk about you're wearing new colors, you're dealing with new players. Talk about that transition that first month and getting to know your team.
Yeah, I think it's a big transition. Going in, I came and I'm asking a lot of questions, and we're already starting up. We're practicing 3 days a week, and then we're doing conditioning 2 days. So a lot of things that, I'm learning as I go, learning my players as well, and just being open to getting feedback from what the program, excelled in and what areas that I could help and contribute to.
Let's state this. This is groundbreaking.
It is.
This is a woman coaching the boys at the highest level in the LA City section. That's never happened. There's been lower division teams that have been coached by a young lady coaching the boys, but never the highest division. So what makes you a little bit different? Why was Shawn Kolani the lady that was able to break through?
I think there's nothing really that makes me different other than the fact that I just don't accept no. I really push myself to, I'm very self-motivated, and if I have a desire or a goal, just because the standard or whatever society says at one point, I don't hold that to my own life. I live by my standards and what feels good for me. And so, I try to keep the outside noise outside, and just worry about, what I'm focused on, my goals, and I don't think about it as a gender. I just think about it as, hey, I love to coach basketball. I've been around boys basketball my whole life. I didn't even play girls basketball until I was in high school. So for me, it's just very common. It's what I'm used to. It's what I know, and it's what feels good for me and feels right. And so for me, I don't see it as anything more than me coming in and coaching and trying to make an impact.
I know that you work a lot of skill. We talked about that a little bit before the show, that right now you're just working on skill work with your players. When it comes to the high school basketball player, I'm curious, give me like one or two things that almost every varsity high school basketball player needs to champion or really craft in their game.
I think skill is up there. I would say for me, 60% of practice has to be skill work. I think the other thing is speaking the language. We have to speak in terms of basketball and understanding that. And I think the biggest thing is breaking things down to their basic, most simplistic form. Rather than explaining everything as a whole, take each thing as its individual teaching point, right? Like if we're doing pick and roll stuff, it's not just, hey, come off the pick and roll, we're going to get into a pocket jumper, right? There's other concepts that we have to teach going into that. What approach are we using, right? What pace are we coming off? What angle do we want the screen to be set? Those are the things that I think are really important and critical in any sort of teaching level, whether you're teaching, from the foundation of, the youth, or you're teaching the highest level professional. Those are the things that are really important.
I did have a quick follow-up on that. Even though it's the varsity level and these kids want to play in college and they're in their late teens, do you kind of almost have to assume they know nothing? You kind of, it sounds not like you're talking down to them, but it's like you got to talk to them like they're 5 a little bit, so you're building it from the ground up. Is there an aspect to that with your coaching?
Absolutely. I think you can't assume anything as a coach. You have to go in assuming that you're going to teach everything. And then if they do know that, that's an additive. That's a plus. But, for me coming in, I'm not assuming anybody knows anything. So for the program that I was at last year, that's kind of the same strategy that I used, and we had success. So I'm gonna follow that strategy at Elko too.
Your background, your brother was a pretty good basketball player at Taft. Jordan Farmar went on to start UCLA, then played for the Lakers amongst other teams. Talk a little bit about that relationship and how you looked up to him and how that shaped you as a basketball individual.
Definitely. From a young age, we always competed in the backyard, and I looked up to him, just as an older sibling. But then when I saw, his success and his work ethic behind the scenes, there he is. One more, there we go. But yeah,
Look at this move. Look at this move.
I've seen that a couple times. Oh boy, that's an old clip. But yeah, I think too, getting to see somebody at the professional level and getting to see the behind the scenes of what it takes to be a true professional. We always look at it as these athletes just go out and compete. There's a lot of other things that go on behind closed doors. And so being able to learn from somebody that's, had that experience, has been on championship teams, all throughout his career. You look at Taft, UCLA, the Lakers, right? So being able to really pick his brain, I think is a really good, asset for me.
Now, you were telling us that you did a drill, a charge drill with him. Tell us a little bit about that. I'd never heard anything like this.
Yeah, so my brother and I are very competitive individuals, but growing up, I was always the little sibling, and he used to make me, so we had a little piece of concrete, and then we would always dribble the ball in this one spot, on the grass. And he always used to make me stand right where the grass and the concrete met, and he would just tell me that I got to stand there and take a charge. And so we would do multiple reps until I would go inside and start crying. So,
Did you ever make him cry?
No, I didn't make him cry, but I did beat him a couple times. He won't admit it, but I got him a couple times.
Let me ask you this. The unfortunate part sometimes about high school is dealing with parents. It's just the nature of that level. When we get to the collegiate level, we don't got to deal with parents as much. And of course, at the pro level, parents are on the sidelines. I mean, they don't do anything. So at the high school level, you got to deal with parents. Talk about that a little bit at El Camino Real. Not necessarily those parents, but just the fact that that's the nature of the beast.
Yeah, I think that, when you're talking about kids in general, you understand that you need buy-in from the parents as well. And so in order to have the kids buy in, the kids be committed to the program wholeheartedly, the parents also have to be contributing to that, right? They're dropping their kids off at practice, they're sacrificing hanging out with the girls on the weekend so they can, drop their kids off for weights or whatever we're doing. So it's a big sacrifice and a commitment on the parents' end as well. So making sure that, I'm communicating with them openly, I'm setting expectations for the program, just being very clear, what I expect and what sort of culture that I want to build. I think that's really important for the buy-in on all aspects.
You're in the West Valley League. It's a very powerful league for just about every sport in the city section, boys basketball included, especially at Taft with their coach Taylor, Nick Halix, the other coach that's big in that league at Birmingham. You're going to be a rookie in that league. Halleck, Taylor, they have anything on you, a young lady stepping in there? Or are you going to school them too, like you did your brother?
They've obviously shown that they can run successful programs. So I'm coming in and, I worked with Coach Taylor, and so I'm coming in, I'm taking the stuff that I learned from there and from my other experiences, and I'm hoping to compete. They do a good job in their own right, and so there's no knock on them. I just want to do a good job in my right and make these games competitive.
What would Derek Taylor say about you?
Ooh, that's a good question.
That's why I asked you.
I think he would have positive things to say. I think, when I was there at Taft, I ran the offense for them that year. I took a lot of concepts that I learned from the Lakers when I worked with them. So I think that he would say, I'm fit for the position. I think that he would say he can't wait to compete against me. I think that would be we're both very competitive, so I would assume that would be it.
What's your coaching style? Let's go a little bit in between the lines here. You like playing fast. I know personnel has a lot to do with that, but if you kind of had your magic wand, you want guys that can get up and down. You slow it down a little bit. You like to press. Talk about maybe your coaching style, what you prefer.
Yeah, definitely. I like to play fast. I think it puts pressure on the defense, and also it makes the defense have to, make decisions quickly. So I like to play fast. I'm really big on spacing, off-ball movement, making sure, that the ball is moving, we're moving it side to side, and then defensively being active, right? Getting our hands in passing lanes, making sure we're contesting shots, being vertical at the rim. Those sorts of things are really important. And then the personnel stuff, right?
Sure.
Like depending on what our strengths are. all input plays and things like that, and more so actions. You know, we're starting to see plays sort of simmer away. It's more about actions and making reads now. And so really kind of putting the kids in positions to, you know, make reads, and then talking about what sorts of reads we're going to get in these situations. So obviously there'll be some, you know, ATOs and things like that, but, you know, majority I want it to be fast-paced. I want to put pressure on the defense. I want to get up and down, and that means that we got to be in good shape to do that.
That's entertaining basketball right there, Randy. That's what we want. That's what we
want. It is entertaining. That's what we want. It's like the old Laker teams. Like it's winning time. What's interesting, you're not concerned about winning in the first year, are you? You're concerned about your team reaching its best, being at a top-notch level. You're not concerned about W's and losses early in your career there?
I mean, I think, you know, wins are always something that a coach wants to achieve. But I think for me, if we take care of the other things, right, if we do other things well, I think the winning comes.
What are the other things?
Showing up to practice on time, you know, making sure that we're rebounding, we're running to get everybody's rebound, saying hello when we walk into the gym, those sorts of little sorts of culture things that I think are really important. But then it goes back to the teaching parts of basketball. So for me, I think if you add all of those things in, I think then you create a successful program, then you start to see wins. I think as any transition, right, like there's going to be losses that come with that. So not harping on the losses and really just focusing on the things that we do well and then stringing together a lot of plays together.
My final question for you, Shawn, and thank you for joining us tonight. The culture, how much of that is impacted by stuff you do off the court?
Culture is everything. It's all you have. And it's totally impacted by things that you do off the court. So definitely going to make it a point to have certain bonding experiences with the team because, you know, not only just for them, but for me as well. For me to get to know them more, the coaching staff, everybody. I think that it builds something special, and every team that I've been on that's had success, we all get along, and we see each other as friends and family at the end of the season.
Well, I can see why El Camino Real hired you. You're an impressive young lady.
Thank you.
Congratulations on the position, and I can't underscore this enough. First woman to coach a boys team in the West Valley League, and only the third one in the history of the LA City section, and they were at lower levels the first two. So that's quite an accomplishment, and you should be very proud.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
It was really a joy to meet you.
Yeah, you
All right,
as well.
Tark, we have about 2 minutes left, 2.5 minutes. So I know you're going to the big baseball game tomorrow. This is going to be an interesting week with all the different playoffs, and we're in the time of year now where it's really exciting to be a high school student athlete, isn't it?
It's a win-or-go-home situation right now. It's bittersweet. There's a lot of seniors that give it their best shot, and it's their final game, and that's it. Their high school career is over. There are others that progress on to the semifinals and championships, and that's kind of what you dream about as a high school athlete. So bittersweet couple weeks coming up to finish up the prep season.
Yeah, it's hard for the teams that are going to go out, and you saw that in that softball game that you were at the other day. I mean, you had a team from Granada Hills that had some great wins during the regular season, had ascended to number 2. They were the favorite over Kennedy, fell behind 6-0, overcome that deficit, only to lose on a bang-bang play at home. So you got to take the good and the bad in life, and this time of year really showcases that, doesn't it?
I think high school athletes, when they're in the moment, they don't realize they're learning things about life. When you talk to a 17-year-old and he or she just lost a basketball or a baseball game, you're like, hey man, like, you know, this is a life lesson. They don't get it at that moment. But later on in life, you realize there's ups and downs, and that's where it helps you.
Yeah, it really does. And they're life lessons, and we learn them all the time. You can never stop learning in life. Well, we want to thank our guest, Shawn Kolani, who was out here for the last 10 minutes or so, learning a little bit more about that El Camino basketball boys team. And I got a feeling she's going to be successful. It's not going to be easy. They're going to have to overcome some adversity because there's some great teams in that league. But I liked her way of life, the way she works her teams. There she is. Thank her again for coming out here, and she did a great job. Also want to thank the guys at Marshall, Bryan Akasaka, their head coach, who's obviously got a great team. They've won 20 in a row. Don't know that they can get by the West Valley League. That's not going to be easy, but you never know. And Daniel Vergara, the baseball pitcher, who's 8-0, I think he's got a great chance to beat Pollard. What's your big take this week? Where are you going to?
My eyes are on Oaks Christian softball.
I
Pete
know.
Ackerman's been there for like a million years. They're the #1 seed, and they keep beating people. So they're in the semifinals at Los Alamitos on Saturday. Let's see if they can get to the final. Division I softball.
And they've had trouble in the past against teams
That's right.
from Orange County. But this isn't the past. This is the present. They're unbeaten with a 31-0 and undefeated. For everyone on set here tonight, an exciting show. Thank you for joining us on SoCal Prep Report. For Tarek, I'm Randy. 9 o'clock next Thursday night, right here. We'll see you then on SoCal Prep Report. Good night, everybody.